What's up, a Cinema Shogun here, and I am fresh out of the theaters after watching the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem movie. Now, I wanted to film this video right outside of the movie theater, but unfortunately, the movie theater that I went to is right next to an airport, so literally every time I tried to talk, an airplane would take off. I was sitting there like, hey, it's Cinema Shogun here. I am outside of the theater right now. I just got done seeing... And it just kept happening over and over again. It was so frustrating. But anyways, I drove straight home. Here I am. And I gotta say that I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. In fact, I kind of loved this movie. Don't get me wrong, it's not the best movie ever made, but this is the most teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie, or product in general, that I think that we have ever witnessed. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that this sticks, closer to the source material than any Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle product, because this definitely strays away from the source material more than a lot of the things that I've seen. But as far as feeling like teenagers, you know what I mean? Like, because it's called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And often the Ninja Turtles don't really feel like teenagers. Yeah, sometimes they're jokey. They're fun characters, but they never came across like actual teenagers to me. But in this movie, they do. Now, I'm not saying that that makes this movie better than anything that we've seen, from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm definitely not trying to say that. But it definitely worked for this movie. I went into this movie thinking that I was going to be upset by the voice acting in this movie. But in fact, I was pleasantly pleased. I was surprised, actually. I thought that I was going to hate some of the voices in this movie, but I think everyone did a pretty good job. In fact, the standout as far as the voice acting goes in this movie for me was Ice Cube with the Superfly character. A character that I thought we would have seen on screen for maybe a minute or two, but it turns out to be one of the main characters in the film. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to spoil anything here in this review for you all. I'm just going to give you some of my thoughts about everything, that I feel about this movie. But Ice Cube and the Superfly character, the voice acting for that character, it definitely stuck out. Don't get me wrong, you can tell it's Ice Cube, but Ice Cube showed that he had range when it comes to his voice acting. And I look forward to seeing him do more animated movies in the future. The animation is beautiful. I've never seen anything exactly like it. It's definitely something different. And they pulled it off in a way where you could be looking at the screen, and some things on the screen seemed like they were drawings straight out of a comic book, while other things on the screen looked like 3D animation, while other things on the screen almost looked like claymation. And I don't think they used any claymation in this movie, but the animation almost makes it feel that way sometimes. It's definitely a unique style here. And talking about unique style, I really dug the character design for these characters in this movie. I know you've seen the Ninja Turtles, but all of the villains have interesting, cool little character designs as well. Now, some of them I wanted to be more menacing, because when it comes to the Ninja Turtles, they have some of the most cool, colorful, weird-looking villains. You know what I mean? Like these mutant different animals and things of that nature. And for some of the character designs, I wanted them to be more menacing. But for the tone of this film, the character designs that they went with totally work. So yeah, when you see like Mondo Gecko and you see certain characters, they don't look as menacing. They look more innocent, but it all works with the tone of this movie. And speaking of the tone of this movie, it was a really funny movie. I think I laughed in this movie more than I have in a lot of the comedy movies that came out recently. I shouldn't have laughed at this movie as much as I did, but they had some pretty good jokes in there. The tone of this movie was really lighthearted. It didn't take itself too seriously, but at the same time, it wasn't all just fun and games. It was fun-spirited, but there was a certain serious level, to the movie as well. But there were some things that I think I would have wanted them to take a little more seriously. But once again, in the overall, once you watch the overall film and you got the feel for the tone that they were going for, all of the choices that they made that I wouldn't necessarily have made, it works. Even the things that I disagree with about this film, I can't deny that it worked in the movie, in the context of the movie. I really only have 2 gripes about this movie. And I would have to spoil some things to tell you my issues with the film. So instead of spoiling things in this video, I'm going to make a separate video about that altogether. What I will say, the one thing that I will say negative about this movie that I don't think is too much of a spoiler is that I would have liked to see the personalities of each turtle shine through a little bit more. The average person looks at the Ninja Turtles and they think they all look alike. Yeah, they got, different color bandanas and different weapons, but they all blend in, you know what I mean? But if you know the Ninja Turtles, you know that they all have very unique personalities and character traits. When it comes to this movie, I don't think they focused on that enough. In many ways, I think that some of the turtles in this movie could swap bandanas and you wouldn't even know the difference. Like Raphael, that's my favorite turtle. Okay, hands down, Raphael is my favorite turtle. Michelangelo comes second. Raphael has always been the outcast of the 4, if you will. He's always been more serious and more tough, more ragged. In this film, they play on the fact that he has a temper a little bit, but for the most part, the real Raphael doesn't shine through. And there's so many jokes and stuff being cracked that Michelangelo doesn't shine through as the comedic relief here because everyone's being comedic. In fact, I would say that the standout turtle, okay? The standout turtle of this movie is Donatello. In my honest opinion, the standout turtle in this movie is Donatello. But anyways, as far as the storyline goes, it was a simple, tight story. It got the job done. I felt like the flow of the movie worked out. I never felt myself getting bored. In fact, I could have dealt with a little bit more, and I'm glad that it looks as if, without spoiling anything, it looks as if we're going to get a sequel. I'm hoping that this movie does good in the box office. But, movies have been getting brutalized in the box office lately. And a lot of people are online claiming that this movie is woke and stuff like that. Listen, I am the most anti-woke person you're going to find. I hate the propaganda that they're pushing in movies these days. There's no propaganda in this movie. There's no wokeness really in this film. In fact, this is everything that us nerds, us people who love pop culture, this is everything that we've been asking for. A movie that's just a movie, that pays homage to the characters in the movie, instead of going out of its way to push, a certain social message or any type of propaganda. All of that, it's not involved in this movie. This is everything us pop culture people have been wanting. Now, if you're not a fan of the Ninja Turtles, I don't know how you're going to feel about this, but I definitely think that this is a movie that parents are going to enjoy taking their kids to. Sometimes parents, they take their kids to the movies and they dread it. I was at the movies today, and all of the parents that were in there with kids, they were laughing throughout the film. And all of the kids seemed like they enjoyed it as well. In fact, there were more people at this movie today, on a Tuesday, watching this Ninja Turtle movie than I've seen at any of the Marvel movies since Spider-Man, since the last Spider-Man. So it felt good to actually be in the theater with people who were audibly enjoying the movie. You know what I mean? Like, that's not something you get as often these days, especially where I live. When I go to the movies, literally on release day, there's nobody there. I'll be the only person in the theater with whoever I go to the movies with. But I wouldn't say that it was a packed crowd, but there was a good bit of people in there, and everyone seemed to enjoy it. All in all, I am thoroughly pleased with this movie. I thought that this would... I mean, it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Ninja Turtles always has the potential to be a cool, fun movie. I was just dreading the fact that, this is 2023 and everything is so filled with hogwash propaganda. But luckily, we did not have to deal with that in this movie. Everything about this movie was pretty good. I think that this is a good starting off point to relaunch the Turtle franchise. I didn't really like the Michael Bay movies that much. This is definitely a step up from them. Some of the character designs and some of the choices you might not be as okay with. And this movie is not as much of an action movie as it is just I don't even know what to label it. There's action in the movie, don't get me wrong. But it's not like packed to the brim with explosions and fighting and everything like that. We're dealing with inexperienced turtles in this movie for sure. So when you go into this movie, know that you're not dealing with these grizzled, chiseled turtles that have been fighting crime forever. In fact, you watch them fight crime for the first time in this movie. So if you're going in expecting balls to the wall action, you're not necessarily going to get that. But you're going to get a fun movie, a funny movie, action sprinkled throughout. You're going to get a movie that you could turn your mind off in and you could just sink into the world. Because they did a good job with everything, the visuals, the sounds, and the music. I almost forgot. How could I forget about the music? The soundtrack for this movie was awesome. Never in my life did I expect that I would be hearing a Gucci Man song during a Ninja Turtles movie, yet that's what we get. Gucci Man and the Ninja Turtles. What more can you ask for? But yeah, I could say it 1,000 times. I really enjoyed this movie. I hope that other people enjoy this movie as well. It does a good job of paying homage to the past. It does a good job of respecting the source material while at the same time changing a few things and tweaking a few things for modern audiences. And listen, I hate when they say, oh, we made this movie for modern audiences, because usually that means they made this movie a woke piece of garbage. But here, when I say for modern audiences, what I mean is like the lingo and stuff that they used for these teenage turtles. They talk like teenagers actually talk. In a lot of movies, they try to nail how kids talk and it feels out of place and they're using out of date slang words. Like, no one said that word within the last 20 years. You know what I mean? Here, they're up to date with their lingo and it really makes you feel as if you're dealing with real teenage turtles. So that's something that I definitely enjoyed. But overall, I really enjoyed this movie. I could say it 1,000 times. I think that if you're a turtle fan, you're going to appreciate this. Now, if you're some random dude off the streets that doesn't care about the Ninja Turtles, I'm not going to say that you're going to walk into this movie and be mesmerized. But if you're a casual fan or a hardcore fan, this movie definitely has something for you, and it's definitely a good way to introduce the next generation to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It does a great job of doing that. But for now, let me know your thoughts about this movie and about if you've seen the movie. Let me know your thoughts about the movie down in the comments below. If you haven't seen it, let me know if you plan on seeing it down in the comments below. But while you're down there, hit the thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell, and I will be talking to you all more about this movie soon in the next video.